Alright folks, what is up? This is One Big Bugga and I am coming at you with HearthStone, but in this one I am not playing, at least not yet. One moment please. I need to clear my throat. In this one I want to go over with you my two strongest decks. One of them's a very basic with a few extra cards thrown in, and one of them is a little stronger in terms of cards, but actually overall it's actually a little bit weaker because I don't quite have how to play it down yet. So I want to show you them real quick. The first one is the Rogue. Now, if I can, I actually want to find the deck that I got the template for this off of, because the template that I use for this is a great deck to use for anybody who's just starting out and wants a really, not really strong, but a good, solid deck that you can make with the cards that you unlock by leveling all your classes to 10, which I did versus AI. I did versus the various AI. So it's real easy to do, and you can make that rogue deck out of all of the cards that you unlock by doing that. And I've just changed a few things around in this deck with extra cards that I have that do the same thing or better versus, other things. So I start out with 2 backstabs. It's a good card, deal 2 damage to an undamaged minion. This deck actually excels at dealing with paladin decks as well, getting rid of pesky divine shields with things like backstab and shiv and whatnot. That's one of the reasons I actually really like this deck, but there's plenty of minions that you can get rid of, which is 2 damage. There are 3 2s and 2 2s and whatnot. So, Cold Blood. This is just a filler card I have. I think I maybe had 2. I took it down to 1 because I ended up with I think a Eviscerate. I finally got the second Eviscerate. Only had 1, so I took out a Cold Blood over an Eviscerate. It gives a minion +2 attack, and then you can combo it for +4 attack instead, which can make even the weakest minion pretty damn strong. You can take something like an Elven Archer that they may have left on the board and make it a 5/1 and pop them off for 5 damage, at which point you've gotten really good value out of your Elven Archer. But of course combo means you have to play it after you play something else. You can't just play it outright on your own. Of course, 2 Elven Archers, these really aren't the best 1/1s, but they can deal with annoying little things. They can, like I said, deal with divine shields. Like if you have they have a Sunwalker down, you have a card that could take out the Sunwalker, but it won't because they have the divine shield. And you draw this, later in the game, you can pop the divine shield for 1 damage and then take out the Sunwalker. So it's actually surprisingly good utility card when you're working with a basic deck. Of course, Eviscerate deals 2 damage, and then you can combo it for 4 damage. Really strong direct removal card. Very easy to combo because it's only 2 mana, which is really good. And then Shiv, deal 1 damage and draw a card. Again, a good divine shield remover. If you get something down to 1 health, you can kill it. Plus, you get to draw a card out of it, which is nice. 1 Defias Ringleader. I think I had 2. Yeah, I had 2 Defias Ringleaders in here, but I changed it out. So normally you'd have 2 Defias Ringleaders. If you combo the Defias Ringleader, he summons a 2/1 bandit, so you get a 2/2 and a 2/1 for 2 mana, which is really strong. Although easy to take out in many cases, it's still something that the enemy doesn't want to leave on the board. 2 Novice Engineers, of course. You draw a card when you cast them. That's basically what they're down there for, just a simple 1/2. But I've actually done some interesting things with them. This is what I changed out my Defias Ringleader for, a Patient Assassin. Can only be, of course, be taken out by AoE spells or, non-direct damage spells, like a rogue one, for instance, is Betrayal. But it's really good. It's the Cobra that can't be touched. unless they have AoE. So like it doesn't work really well against a mage per se, but something like a druid whose only AoE is swipe, it actually works really well because they actually have to have those swipes in their hands. Where mages have Blizzard, they have Flame Strike, they have Arcane Blast, things like that. So it can be a real pain in the butt, but I've actually gotten quite a bit of use out of this. It intimidates people from putting down bigger creatures until they can deal with it, because this little 1/1 pop dead, you know? So it really intimidates people from putting down bigger creatures, and I find that it works actually kind of well. I really can't pronounce this very well. Perdition's Blade, I guess. It's just a 2/2 dagger. I just put it into the game. As a matter of fact, that may have even been what I popped the Defias Ringleader for. It deals 1 damage when you cast it, or you can combo it into dealing 2 damage. Again, really good for getting rid of Divine Shields. Plus, it gives you a 2/2 dagger instead of your usual 1/2, so you get a little bit of extra damage out of it. Can work really well. I do use 2 Fan of Knives right now. I've been considering taking it down to 1 and putting in another Defias Ringleader so that I can have that extra creature on the board. But I'm not, 100% sure about that. If I take out Fan of Knives, I could even put in another Raging Worgen, which is probably what I want to do. Fan of Knives, again, works really well for taking out a lot of little creatures. Pardon me, if they get like a lot of imps on the board for a Warlock or something of that nature, Fan of Knives is just really good for limiting all of that. Plus, you get to draw a card. I may take it down to 1 Fan of Knives for another Raging Worgen, or Defias Ringleader, one or the other, probably a Worgen. Worgen, of course, is a 3/3 for 3. When it rages, it gets Wind Fury, +1 attack, so it turns into a, well, I would say 4/3, but, obviously it's a 4/2. You could backstab it, or you could shiv it. That's basically what the combo's there for. If it lives that long, I'll be honest, it usually doesn't, but it's really good target for people to take out, to draw some attention off of you. Raid Leader. Again, give all your minions +1 attack. You can see this works off a lot of small minions. There's not a lot of heavy minions in this. It works about pumping them up and whatnot, and you'd be surprised how well this works. Raid Leader, give all your other minions +1 attack. He's a 2/2 for 3. It's a really good card. Shattered Sun Cleric, give friendly minion +1/+1 for 3. It's also a 3/3. That's really strong common card that can be used in any deck. And I don't think I've seen too many decks that don't have one right now. I get 2 Wolf Riders. They're a 3/1 charge, so basically just a one-off. You throw them down for 3 mana, and you can take out something that has 3 health, or you can damage something and then, finish taking it out, or whatever the case may be. They're really good shock troops, as I like to call it. Dark Iron Dwarf, of course, is really good. Give a minion +2 attack. And plus, it's a 4/4 for 4. So it's a really, really strong card, much like the Shattered Sun Cleric. Except the Shattered Sun gives +1/+1. It's a 3/3 for 3. This is kind of like the pumped up version of that, and it gives +2 attack. Assassin's Blade. Really strong 5-cast dagger. I run 2 of them. They're 3/4s. They're really good for just doling out damage, getting rid of annoying smaller creatures. Or, you can get 4 hits out of this onto your opponent, which can be really good. Of course, I also run 2 Assassinates. For 5 mana, you can destroy any enemy. And for anyone who does not know and maybe watches this, that includes Divine Shield. Assassinates work through Divine Shields. If you assassinate something with a Divine Shield, it dies. You just don't pop the Divine Shield. And this was supposed to be a Reckless Rocketeer, but because I have the Argent Commander, which I think is better, Argent Commander has 1 more health, 1 less attack, plus it has Divine Shield for the same amount of mana. You can usually drop it off a creature or damage a creature to the point where you can off it, and you still get a 4/3 on the field that the enemy's going to have to deal with. And you could sub things in here. You could use Deadly Poison in combination with an Assassin's Blade, or You know, there are other things you can do. I actually ran Conceal for a while. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, I haven't put him in yet. As a matter of fact, there's where my Fan of Knives is going to go. I only just got him, to be honest. So we'll take out one Fan of Knives and do the SI7 agent. I think will work pretty well in this as well. I do have Edwin Van Cleef. I actually had a golden one of him, but I disenchanted it, and I'll show you for what on the next deck. But yeah, I don't know. He's not as good as he used to be. You really need like conceals for him to try and protect him from the enemy, so you can use him. And of course, he would work well. Believe it or not, the mana curve for this deck, as you can see here, looks a little like messed up, but it works. It's strangely enough. I haven't lost too many games with this rogue deck. And I'll show you in another video. Especially I got to test out how putting in the SI7 agent, but the mana curve for this deck is actually lower than what I have. It's because I've subbed in a few things like the Assassin's Blades. This didn't have 2 Assassin's Blades in it. As a matter of fact, I think it only ran 2 Assassinates in the Argent Commander. So if I can find the video that's the template for where I started building this, I will link in the description below. Hopefully I can find it. It's a surprisingly strong deck that takes surprisingly little mana and can do a surprising amount of stuff. The only thing I don't like about getting rid of Fan of Knives is I lose that card draw. I lose that 1 card draw, but it should be fine because the SI agent, again, is a 3/3 for 3 and deals 2 damage upon drop as long as you combo him, which isn't all that hard to do. So, alright, the next deck I want to show you is one that it's actually, believe it or not, despite the cards in it, is not as strong as my rogue deck, basically because it's missing some components. I've had to sub in a few things, and it's not quite as strong as it could be. And this is my custom warrior deck. Of course, it's built around, as you can see, a lot of low aggro and weapons. And of course, I'll go over some of the stuff that I've actually put in here. So first we have 2 Inner Rages. Deal 1 damage to a minion, give it +2 attack. You know, that kind of speaks for itself. I've actually dropped in 2 Executes into this game. I forget what I replaced to drop the 2 Executes in right now, but needing a way to deal with those bigger creatures, and Execute is definitely a way to do that, although they may not stay. I only have 1 upgrade right now. There's actually supposed to be 2 in this deck. You wouldn't think it does a hell of a lot. Give a weapon +1/+1 or equip a 1/3. But it's actually very, very surprisingly strong when you can turn something like this, a Fiery War Axe, into a 4/3, or you could turn an Arcanite Reaper into a 6/3, or even a Gore Howl into an 8/2. That's eccentrically powerful. So don't underestimate upgrade. I also have 2 slams. I just crafted another slam for this deck. I only had 1, and I was using Shield Slam, which is not as good. So there's 2 slams in this deck, which gives me a little bit of card draw, because that's something this deck lacks a hell of a lot of, and it's very easy for this deck to run itself out of cards. Bloodsail Raider, of course, with the Battle Cry, gain attack equal to your weapon. Can work really well, especially if you combine it with the Warsong Commander. People just don't see it coming. And, you know, Fiery War Axe is 3, and then she's 2, so you got a 5/3 on the board that's charging. Or, God forbid, you have an Arcanite Reaper or even a Gore Howl on the board, and then you get that charge, and good lord, she does a lot of damage suddenly, and it needs to be dealt with. Cruel Taskmaster, of course, deal 1 damage to a minion and give it +2 attack. 2 of these in the deck. Of course, this is for like some of the stuff that follows. The Amani Berserker that I skipped over, you know, is one of them. Enrage, gain +3 attack. I actually won a game with just an Armani Berserker, and a Cruel Taskmaster. I coined into an Armani Berserker on turn 1, and then I dropped a Taskmaster on turn 2. The guy didn't have anything on the board. I dealt 7 damage to him, and then I dealt 7 again, and then I dealt 7 a third time because he still didn't have anything he could drop to deal with it. Well, that's 21 damage out of 30. He was almost dead, and at that point he just surrendered out because he pretty much knew he was done for, because I had just also dropped a Fiery War Axe. So I mean, that was the thing too. I don't think he just didn't have anything on board. I think it's because I dropped a Fiery War Axe, I was able to clear out whatever he dropped. So was able to keep the Armani Berserker alive. And of course, there's a Frothing Berserker, a 2/4 for 3. Whenever a minion takes damage, gains +1 attack. This is going to be a real scary beast. I actually got this thing almost to 14 once before the enemy actually managed to kill it. And I did, of course, didn't hit him with 14. I think I hit him with 7, and then I hit him with 10, and then they eventually had to deal with it. They eventually were able to deal with it, but still got up to 14 before, almost 14 before it died. Of course, 2 Raging Worgens, a 3/3 for 3, and then the Wind Fury +1. Hit that with a Cruel Taskmaster that gives +2, and suddenly you're looking at a 6/2 on the board that does Wind Fury, so it's 12 damage straight off if it gets to hit, especially if it's something like the Warsong Commander out. Probably the best common, one of the best commons in the game, definitely the best common in the Warrior deck. It gives all your other minions charge. The Warsong Commander, of course, does not have charge herself, but you know, if you have the mana in a late game combo, you drop the Warsong Commander, follow it up with a Raging Worgen, do something like Inner Rage or Cruel Taskmaster, and suddenly, you know, you get a 6/2 Worgen that's charging down, preferably the Taskmaster, because then you get in 2 extra damage. So you do 14 damage in a single turn. You know, that's almost half a guy's life in a single turn. So it's really good. This is one that I subbed in, the Wolf Rider, because I don't have a second Armani Weaponsmith. So I subbed in the Wolf Rider because it kind of fits the motif of the deck with charge. You know, again, the one-off. And then, of course, the Arathi, I think, did I say Armani net last time? I apologize. It's Arathi Weaponsmith. You equip a 2/2 weapon. It's actually pretty decent. And you get a 3/3 for 4, which isn't too bad. But once I get a second Arathi Weaponsmith, I'll probably drop the Wolf Rider. I've also subbed in these 2 Corcoran Elites. I don't remember what I subbed them in for, but I subbed in 2 Corcoran Elites. I know what one of them are subbed in for. I know what one of them's for. So I'll probably switch that out later on when I get a second one, but it's probably going to take a while. But it's still not bad. A 4/3 charge for 4. It's pretty strong and can be pretty surprising. And you can combine that with like an Inner Rage or a Cruel Taskmaster and deal a surprising amount of damage in a single turn that people really don't expect. No, actually I won't, because there's something else I got to trade off of that. But of course, 2 Arcanite Reapers, very staple item in a warrior deck, a 5/2 weapon, really good for clearing out a bunch of stuff. In one game, I had a Druid use an Innervate, which gave him 2 mana crystals. Then he coined to drop an 8/8 Argent Protector, thinking that it was so early in the game that I wouldn't be able to deal with it. I forget what I had on the board at the time, but it was hurting him pretty bad. So what I ended up doing is I popped an Arcanite Reaper, and I slammed it for 5, and then I dropped my Wolf Rider and hit it for 3 more, and then my minions were able to get back through. Granted, I had to take 8 to the face, but I was sitting at 30 anyway, so it really wasn't a big deal. And then I hit him for a hell of a lot of more damage, so he ended up backing out at that point. So it's a really strong, especially if you can get rid of some bigger stuff. The Argent Commander, of course, we went over. Here's the Reckless Rocketeer. Like I said, it's supposed to be in the last deck, the Rogue deck. The only reason I'm using the Reckless Rocketeer here is because I don't have a second Argent Commander. There's actually supposed to be 2 Argent Commanders in this deck. I don't have that. So I get a 5/2 charge for 6. Again, pretty strong. It's usually a one-off. It can, you know, it's usually easily dealt with. So you really want to drop this down when you can get your most bang for your buck out of it. Taking out a strong minion or dealing surprise ending damage that the enemy may not be surprising. Now this Grommash Hellscream, this is the card that I disenchanted my Golden Van Cleef for to create this card. I like gold cards, but functioning wise, I'm not playing Van Cleef, so I don't really care about golden. Functioning wise, in order to make this deck more workable, this is what I had to make, because this is one of the cards that is supposed to be in the deck, and that's Grommash Hellscream. He's a 4/9 charge with an enrage of +6. So if he takes even 1 point of damage, he becomes a 10/8. So you hit him with an enrage, you hit him with a Taskmaster. Hell, I'll even slam him. I think slam is just not to enemies. I think it's deal 2 damage to a minion. Yeah, deal 2 damage to a minion. So you can even slam Hellscream and turn him into a 10/7. And then he's also charging. And there's nothing that's really going to stand in his way unless it's like Deathwing or something of that nature. So, yeah, I have every reason to really want this card. Of course, there are classes that can deal with it. Mages and priests definitely come to mind. The trick to dealing with them when it comes to Grommash is to try and drop him as the last bit of damage, because you can get like 12 damage out of him. So if the enemy's low, then you try and make it so that you can get through with him and deal that 12 damage and kill them right away. Or you try and bait out their cards. Like I was against a priest with this deck, and I actually managed to win despite it being a lot of not fun, which really it wasn't. Priest decks are so tedious to fight. But I baited out the priest's... I baited out his 2... what are they? Shadow Word Deaths or Power Word Deaths or Shadow Word Pain? I don't know. The one that instantly kills a minion with a damage over 5. I got rid of that. I baited those out. Plus, I baited a Mind Control out of him, and he was tapped out of cards. So then I knew I could drop Grommash safely. And the great thing about Grommash is if you don't enrage him, he's still a 4/9. And a priest actually can't touch that in terms of Power Word or Shadow Word. So it's actually really, really strong. And finally, this is another replacement in the deck. I don't have a Gore Howl, so I decided to use Ragnaros instead. Well, one of my other legendaries. It's not as good as a Gore Howl, but it's still pretty damn solid, because you drop him for 8 mana, you end your turn, and he automatically deals 8 damage to something. And if you can make sure that your enemy's side of the board is clear, well then that's 8 damage directly to the enemy. I can't tell you how many games I won just by clearing the other side of the enemy's board and then dropping Ragnaros down and having him deal the final 8 damage. Or you could get lucky and they're like 8 health or less and there's stuff on the board and he just chooses them to hit. Because he can't attack, and he deals 8 damage randomly at the end of your turn to one of the enemy minions or the enemy himself. Like I said, not quite as good as a Gore Howl, but still functionally pretty good. One of the better legendaries in the game. I would, honestly, if I get a Gore Howl, I will end up dropping him. And I will end up putting him out of this deck and putting a Gore Howl in, because the Gore Howl is definitely more functional. Again, the main problem with this deck, the 2 main problems that I've run into with this deck so far. Main problem number 1. Card draw. Yeah, very, very, very little of it. So it can be easy to run yourself out of mana. Or not out of mana, out of cards. Number 2, it's very easy in this deck to beat yourself to death. To use your weapons to take out the enemy's minions and actually take so much damage that you put yourself to a point where you can't come back. So it can be really frickin' brutal if you're not careful. You know? So you got to be real careful when using this deck, because I've done that a couple times. I've beat myself into oblivion because I had no choice but to try and keep the enemy side under control, and then I was just too low health to do anything about it. So that's it for these two decks, folks. These are my two stronger decks. Like I said, my rogue deck, despite being much more basic in cards, is actually much, much stronger in terms of win-loss than my warrior is. So I'm actually kind of surprised, if I'm to be honest with you. This is saying I have new cards here. Restore. Oh, yeah, that's right. I ground him up to... I just want to see what my new cards are. Scavenging Hyena. I'll have to go in and see if I have two of those in this deck. I don't think I do. And having another one would really help. I got to go over my decks. So yeah, Stormforged Axe I actually want to put in my Shaman deck. I got to go over my decks and actually put stuff in them. And my Warlock deck, I just got a gold sacrificial pack. I love how they give you gold cards of cards that you're probably never going to use. I mean, you know, really, Healing Touch, I've very rarely seen Healing Touch in terms of gold cards. I don't even know what they give you for Hunter. I don't even have one as a Hunter, so that's depressing. Mage, I do use this one, but I didn't get that like given to me, I don't think. And I have Gold Blizzard. Like I said, I don't remember what they've given you for gold. Oh yeah, Holy Light. Yeah, because, you know, healing's really big in this deck and in this game. Gold Mind Blast. Some people use it. I personally don't. I don't even know what the gold rogues are and whatnot. Yeah, Ancestral Healing. Okay. Like I said, the pack there. And then for the warrior, I feel, oh yeah, I think it's Commanding Shout. I'm not sure. Or it's this one, Heroic Strike, which is actually a good card to put in a warrior deck. I just haven't bothered. But, no, it's not what I wanted. But yeah, 88 wins so far in Constructed, 30 wins in Arena. I really suck at Arena, and you've probably seen that already. But that's going to be me done for this one, folks. Like I said, I'll try and find the template for the rogue deck that I basically patented mine after and then sub some cards around. And if I can, I'll write down, because there's no actual link to it that I know of, I'll write down the warrior deck that I'm trying to build, or that I'm similarly building. God, why did I trip over that? But it doesn't matter. But I hope that this helps, and maybe that you've enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Check the links or the descriptions down below for the decks. Hopefully I remember to put them there. And until next time, this is One Big Bugger signing out, and I'll see you then.